Good morning. This is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi, and we're here for an episode of Conversations with a Corgi. And we're going to continue our look at things that we can learn from dogs. And this is a little bit off topic because it's not actually a virtue, but it's sort of a little fact, which is we're going to look at yawns and yawning. And one of the things that I think is so interesting about yawning, and Tristan's been yawning a lot already. He's making me want to yawn. Some of you might not know this, but how quickly you yawn after someone else yawns is a measure of empathy. And they've based this on studies in the brain, and certainly dogs will yawn if other dogs yawn, other animals will yawn if we yawn. And even in T-Touch, we use yawning as a way to express relaxation to help a dog relax when he's very tense and struggling. And other trainers have picked up on this too, and also use yawning as a way to work with dogs. So what happens? Well, everybody always wants to know, why do we yawn? And there's plenty of theories about why we yawn. One theory is that it's because it stretches the lungs. One theory is that it brings blood to the brain, which may be true. I mean, the bottom line is when you yawn, you're taking in much more oxygen than when you're just normally breathing. And I know some people, people that do Alexander work, for instance, have come to believe that yawning is a way of trying to compensate for a long period of shallow, scared breathing like we have. Sometimes, like a lot of us might be doing now, so yawning would be good for us, right, Tristan? And there's a couple kinds of yawns. They have the spontaneous yawn, which just seems to come out of the blue, but there's the contagious yawn, which is the yawn that is associated with that idea of empathy. And what yawns really do is relieve stress. And the spontaneous yawn, they think it comes on from fatigue or boredom. So if you're ever talking to somebody and you yawn in the middle of what they're telling you, they're going to think you're tired or bored, which may not be true at all. You may just be so scared of their story, whatever's happening in it, like they're talking about something that happened to their dog that was bad, and you're like not breathing deeply, and you're yawning because you've got to take in more air. So it's not necessarily boredom or fatigue that makes us yawn. And right now we're yawning because Tristan's yawning, right, Tristan? And fetuses in utero begin to yawn as early as 11 weeks old, which I think is fascinating because yawning's hardwired into us. And as I said, we use it when we're doing T-Touch and in training to help relax other animals. And one study says that the head baboon will yawn when it's time for the other baboons to go to sleep. I think that study must be old or not very well done, because if that person studying baboons knew anything about bonobos, my favorite little black chimp, which are almost extinct, bonobos yawn to relax the group. It's a matriarchal group, and when there's too much tension socially between the people, the bonobos in the group, they'll start yawning to calm each other down. And I am sure baboons do that for the same thing. I mean, we cannot deny that yawning is a stress release, if nothing else. And why is it? It takes us out of that sympathetic stress nervous system response into the parasympathetic response, and it allows us to calm down and rebalance. So I'm sure those baboons, as much as we may be sleeping afterwards, they're also yawning to relieve the tension of the day so that they can sleep. When your asthma acts up, I need to yawn to get a deep breath. Exactly. Yawning comes from not breathing deeply. And they say, there was a study done at Duke, I find this really interesting, that as we age, we are less likely to yawn. Now, is that because we're less empathetic? Is that because we've learned to breathe correctly? Is that because we're retired and now we're sleeping more? And those are the people they're studying. I'm not so sure that study is like 100% conclusive. I mean, there are a lot of reasons that we can not yawn while we're older that have nothing to do with our age. So, but they say that as we age, we yawn less. I don't think that's true. I definitely yawn more now than I used to, and I'm older than I used to be. And then a Harvard study found that yawning can indicate poor health. And anybody who's ever had a migraine can, I think, verify this, that when I have a migraine, I yawn and yawn and yawn. But it isn't because I have a migraine. I'm yawning because almost always when I have a migraine, I've had a horrible night's sleep. And I'm tense and I'm clamping my teeth and I'm doing all these other horrible things that go with a migraine. And so I'm yawning because, like Danny, when she's having an asthma attack, you're trying to get air. Your brain needs oxygen. And the yawning is just relentless when people have a migraine. They also say that yawning, a lot of yawning can indicate Parkinson's, which certainly my dad yawned a lot and he had Parkinson's. And again, Parkinson's is a problem in the dopamine pathway in the brain. And allowing more oxygen to get to your brain can be your body's way of coping with that lack of dopamine. Same for MS and ALS. So multiple sclerosis and Lou Gehrig's disease, anterior lateralizing sclerosis, both could be times when your body needs more oxygen because your nervous system is shutting down to a certain extent. So yawning, I think, is definitely an indication of your body's attempt to be balanced, both in the parasympathetic and sympathetic response, and to be healthy and to address health needs. So we should all learn from our dogs to yawn and enjoy yawning. They say that stifling a yawn doesn't do you any ill health, but yawning certainly can do you some good health. So in this time when we're all stressed, and sometimes, when we're working with a dog who's really stressed, we're not breathing deeply either. They're bounding at the end of the leash and we don't want them to attack another dog, so we're standing kind of tense. And sometimes just faking a yawn can produce a real yawn. I need a real yawn. And just the word yawn, talk about a word that is what it is, onomatopoeia, like snap. Yawn really sounds like a yawn. So anyway, everybody enjoy their yawns today. Yawn with your dogs and cats. It's really fun to yawn with them. And people who have horses, please, 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 when you see them yawning, try to get their halter off so they can get a big yawn. Any of us who have ever had like a yawning series and not been able to open our mouth all the way, like after you've been at the dentist and had your mouth open for some time, sometimes you need a series of yawns to get that disc in your hinge on your jaw back to where it's supposed to be. So you'll see horses yawn with their halter on and take their mouth sideways to try to open the area where they need to get that nutrition. And it really does help your jaw to actually yawn. So if you do have horses or dogs in a head collar, let them yawn freely because it's not nice not to, right, Tristan? So we'll be back tomorrow. Everybody have a good day. Oh, Ava's joining us. Ava does T-Touch. She knows about using yawning to help calm an animal when you're working with them. So, and one of the things we look for is if we're yawning in a group, even if one dog or two are in the middle of an area where we're doing a demonstration, the whole group will start to yawn, and that will have an effect on that poor stressed dog and its person. And sometimes the dog is less stressed than the person. She's getting her yawns in this morning. We all need to yawn, especially during this time of stress. Things are just falling apart around us, and all we can do is keep shining a light, keep being good, keep being kind to your animals, keep loving the people that you love, keep feeling generosity and gratitude in your life, and don't feed into all this negativity that is going on around us, because it's just a downward spiral from there. Some people have to hold their ground and stay in the light, and that's us. So thanks for joining us today for this episode of Conversations with a Corgi. Tristan's got some time to play with Joe and the other Corgi today. We're looking forward to that. So we'll see you tomorrow. Everybody have a good day and get your yawns in.